After losing all his family, this boy just wanted to be a regular student. Still, he ended up in a military school where they made him a demon by doing experiments on him. Later on, he found out that he was immortal. In this world, your power is determined by the number in your body. The higher the number, the stronger you are, and if your number hits 0, you die. Licht is an ugly, disgusting, pathetic gooner with a habit of doing the most redditor of all things. One day, he got himself into trouble by peeking at girls' underwear. Obviously, the girl didn't like it and ended up beating up him, whipping off billions of his future descendants. Now, Licht finds himself in an auditorium along with this guy, whose fit goes really hard. For the opening ceremony at special military school, the captain tells them to follow orders no matter what. Second Lieutenant Fyrnda, who is also an instructor, steps in to take over. She explains the world they live in is controlled by Allthing, a mysterious god-like entity who looks he was made in Adobe After Effects that appeared during a time of crisis. It's made of super advanced technology and has the power to make decisions for everyone by forcing them to follow the majority vote. So, basically, this god is Joseph Stalin's cousin or something. People thought it was a miracle and started making big decisions like banning F-22 jets, MLRS trucks, war, and nuclear weapons. But things didn't go as planned and their nation is in big trouble. The previous war messed up everything, destroying cities and messing up the environment. There isn't enough food, and people all over the world started senior citizen gangs. The captain interrupts her because he thinks she's scaring everyone too much. Instead, he tells them to do their best to become good soldiers and promises them rewards like money and food, which if you paid attention earlier, they don't have. This makes everyone feel better, and they start smiling again. He reminds them to pay attention to the headmaster, and then introduces Major Schmerman, the headmaster, who doesn't look German at all. Schmerman steps onto the stage, and everyone salutes him. But instead of giving a serious speech, he starts reading a fairy tale. This surprises everyone, and a girl and 2 guys from the crowd start laughing at him. Schmerman tells them to be quiet, but they keep laughing even louder. Suddenly, the captain walks up to them and greets the girl with a 9mm to the head. He says Schmerman told them to be quiet, or they'll be as quiet as the girl who was laughing just now. He tells everyone that a good soldier obeys commands before sending these 2 bozos to hell. Panic spreads through the crowd as people try to run to the door, but it's locked. They scream for help, but the captain fires his gun in the air, silencing them. He warns that anyone who tries to run will be treated like a regular Russian soldier in 1942. Just as he's about to shoot them, Licht locks the F in, holding a random twig to Schmerman's neck. The captain thinks Licht is joking, but Licht insists he's serious, pressing the stick as if it's a Swiss knife or something. Schmerman tells Licht to be serious and explains how to snap his neck properly. He even demonstrates with Licht's hands, showing how to do it. He says that even someone as weak as an average woman can kill with this technique if done right. Licht asks if Schmerman is serious about him snapping his neck. Schmerman replies that the best way to win the war is if he's no longer alive and promises no one else will be harmed if Licht succeeds. But if he hesitates, these random bozos will most likely die. I mean, look at their faces. They ain't built for this. The headmaster asks Licht to make his choice. Licht tightens his grip on the stick, causing Schmerman to smile, but then Licht pulls away, refusing to go through with it. The headmaster questions if Licht really doesn't want to kill him, warning that unless Licht does, everyone will die. But instead, Licht steps forward, insisting that the headmaster should kill him instead, yapping about morality and some nonsense he'll probably turn his back to anyways. Schmerman stands up and agrees to do as Licht wishes, emitting a dark aura that frightens the audience. However, Licht remains unafraid and stares directly into Schmerman's eyes, surprising him that Licht isn't scared of him. Fyrnda steps in to calm the situation, suggesting they take a break. Suddenly, the kids who were shot get up and realize they're still alive, as they were only hit by paint bullets. The captain returns his gun and introduces himself as Captain Allen, one of their instructors. He emphasizes the importance of obeying orders in battle to survive, as those who panic or break down in tears, or were just laughing, dies first. Fyrnda cheerfully announces the end of the opening ceremony and dismisses everyone. Schmerman talks with Captain Allen in his office, expressing interest in Licht, but Allen finds the samurai boy, Takakazi, more intriguing. Schmerman explains Licht took action when Allen pulled his gun, but Takakazi acted after Allen fired his first shot. Allen asks if that makes Licht the leader, but Schmerman says not yet. Schmerman acknowledges Licht's potential and suggests making him a candidate to see how far he can go. The first class at the school begins with Headmaster Schmerman taking the lead. He starts by introducing the school's rules, including something called the star system, ripping it off from Spy Family's Stella stars. Each student is given 2 stars, and if they collect 10 stars, they officially join the military. Their families then receive gold bars, fresh food, boxes marked as food, and some gold coins from the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. However, if a student's star count drops to 0, they're considered unfit and expelled, immediately sent to a nearby gulag. When asked how they can earn more stars, Schmerman explains that those who do well in different activities will receive stars. But if they want to earn stars quickly, they'll have to take them from each other, using any means necessary. So basically, it's like Battle Royale plus Spy Family. However, there are rules for using violence to take stars. Both parties must agree to bet their stars, and the winner only gets the number of stars that were wagered, which is called a star stake. As everyone is awarded their stars, it comes to Licht's turn, but Schmerman surprises him by saying there are no stars for him. Licht is confused, and Schmerman explains that Licht is in a special course where he must take stars from another student within 3 days if he wants to stay enrolled. At the end of class, Licht's friends are worried about him, but he reassures them that he doesn't mind stealing stars. He's only there to get Takakazi out of the school. Takakazi reveals that his grandmother sent Licht, and Licht agrees, saying he can't refuse her wish since she took him in. He suggests they go home together, but Takakazi refuses, stating that he won't become a killer like Licht and his grandmother fears, and Licht will never understand why he wants to be a soldier. Meanwhile, Alan asks Schmerman why he put Licht in a special course, and Schmerman explains that he wanted to test how Licht would handle the situation and see if he could meet their expectations. On the 3rd day, Licht still hasn't earned any stars, causing worry among his classmates. Suddenly, one of them bursts in with alarming news. They all rush to the locker room to find their lockers destroyed and their stars missing, which they had kept safe to prevent theft. Ikanos quickly blames Licht because he's a massive gooner and he might be a thief too. But some students insist he wouldn't steal their stars. They wonder who could be responsible and hear a scream outside. Takakazi rushes out and discovers Sonohara being dragged by her hair by a guy named Don. She pleads with him to return her stars, and when everyone gathers, they see that Don has 10 stars. Takakazi asks if he took Sonohara's stars by force, and Don releases her hair, asking if she willingly gave them to him while looking absolutely ridiculous with this shaft monogatari pose. Fearing for her safety, Sonohara admits that she did. The group begins to accuse Don, claiming he has the power to break into lockers and steal stars. However, Don challenges them, asking if they have any proof or if they wrote their names on their stars, which leaves the group speechless because he makes a good point, despite looking like a damn criminal. Takakazi tells Don that he's collected enough, but Don insists on taking his stars too and demands that Takakazi hands them over. One of the girls accuses Don of being greedy, but Takakazi asks why he should comply. Don reveals, while looking like a botched Bethesda character, that it's the price for his grandma's safety, and fearing for her, Takakazi reluctantly hands over his stars. The girls inquire why Takakazi did that, and he explains that his grandmother borrows her dojo from Don's parents, and she'd have nowhere to go if they kicked her out. After taking the stars, Don walks away. The whole class decides to share their stars like she's a beggar or something. A girl offers Licht one of her stars, but he declines, suggesting she give it to someone who really needs it. He doesn't understand why everyone is so eager to become soldiers. Takakazi also rejects to get a star and decides to find a way to get one. By 5, Takakazi still hasn't earned a star, which frustrates him deeply. Licht tries to console him, saying it's alright because he never wanted Takakazi to become a soldier. However, Takakazi reveals that his grandma is already suffering, losing weight and sacrificing her own food ration to feed them. Despite his efforts to persuade her to eat, she refuses, leaving Takakazi determined to become a soldier to provide for them, so he can use his Glock 19 at his grandma if she refuses to eat. At 6, students who had gathered 10 stars were instructed to assemble by the main gate. Don heads there, believing he's the only one, but Licht blocks his path, pleading for him to return Takakazi's stars. Don reacts violently, striking Licht and sending him crashing into the wall and proceeds towards the gate. Don reaches the gate, but Schmerman insists on counting his stars before he can leave. Don proudly declares he has 12 stars, but when asked to show them, they turn to dust and transform into frogs, which absolutely flabbergasted him. Licht returns to the group with the real stars in his mouth, revealing that he swapped them. Don realizes this and becomes furious, while the rest of the class rejoices that Don's plan failed. Schmerman instructs Doan to return to his class as he won't be graduating. Everyone gets their stars back, and Licht now has 2, just from a quick trick called asset reallocation. He tells Takakazi he's decided to stay with him at the school, but doesn't want him to graduate. Confused, Takakazi learns Licht's plan. While they're at the school, their families will receive extra food rations, allowing them to sustain themselves while they reconsider their soldier aspirations. Some days later, Licht and his classmates are camping out in the woods. Licht peeks at the girls and is surprised they let him because once they become soldiers, they won't have as much freedom. Ikanos tries to show Licht her double-barrel shotgun, but he doesn't look. Licht covers her with his jacket and walks past her, confusing everyone. Licht asks if they really want to become soldiers even though they'll have to kill people. Ikanos says if she could choose not to kill, she would, but they don't have that choice. Schmerman joins them and tells them they should aim to be an army that doesn't kill on the battlefield, like a medic or recon. Licht wonders if it's possible, and the headmaster says it is if they're stronger than their enemies. He promises to help them become that. Ikanos cries, and the rest of the class is happy they can be an army that doesn't kill. Later, Schmerman heads to a secret lab behind his library. There, Fyrnda explains they can't copy the voting ability, but they found new powers from Althing. Schmerman asks Alan about the war. Alan says it's unavoidable, and all nations are getting ready for it. David adds that Althing should have banned wars forever instead of just banning nukes. Schmerman asks David if he knows where those who know about Althing are. David says he's found them all and asks if Schmerman wants him to take them out when the time comes. Schmerman agrees. David reminds him that he's risking his life and Schmerman should keep his promise. Alan assures David that his genetic information is safe and they'll revive him once they develop cloning technology. Schmerman asks Fyrnda for an update on the ACES project. She says the lab rat experiment was successful, but there's a problem: violent tendencies. One rat killed the others with its teeth. Schmerman asks why, and Fyrnda says it's unknown, suggesting the rat's brain might be too small to control it. She proposes moving to human subjects, but Schmerman forbids it, especially using children like before. He asks her to bring him a ballot. She gives it to him, and he wonders what would happen if they gave it to the surviving rat. Despite objections, he does it anyway. The rat rests on the ball, and its eyes glow as it starts doing some DBZ super type sheet. It almost hits Schmerman, but he freezes it and retrieves the ballot. He tells Fyrnda that the children want to be an army that doesn't kill, so she should finish the research because the children will need it. The class finishes their morning training, totally wiped out. Captain Allen scolds them for being easily exhausted. Schmerman steps in, saying it's good they're pushing themselves. Since they want to be an army that doesn't kill, he'll start their training. He'll give them weapons that suit each of them and train them with those. He hands out medieval weapons, like swords and axes. Lynn Girl asks why they're not using AR-15s. Schmerman explains that while modern weapons will kick off the war, it'll eventually turn into close combat. If they're stronger in hand-to-hand fights, they can win. Schmerman then goes back to the lab to see Fyrnda, expressing his wishes they didn't have to go to war. Unlike previous wars for resources, this one aims to control overpopulation, which Schmerman sees as a way to get rid of wasteful humans. He insists they must protect the children from such a war. Fyrnda mentions Project ACE and suggests moving to human trials, but Schmerman freezes the room as a warning. He won't let her experiment on his kids. Fyrnda agrees, but her expression hints she might have other plans, which is alright because she's hot. Terrible news strikes as they receive word that David has been killed. Schmerman informs Alan that the most distressing part is David's final message, which seems cryptic. Playing the transmission for Alan, they hear David mention that they've all been deceived. The group is bewildered by what David meant by being tricked. Fyrnda suggests it could mean their plan details were leaked, so she recommends shifting focus to Project ACE. This infuriates Schmerman, who accuses her of wanting to use the children for experiments that could harm them. He surrounds Fyrnda in ice, but she remains unfazed, revealing that Schmerman's genes are the reason behind the violent tendencies observed in the rats. This angers Schmerman, and Fyrnda insists they must move on to human trials or halt the project. DNA testing reveals one candidate with a high chance of success, and I'll let you guys wonder who that candidate is. In Schmerman's office, he embraces Licht, explaining the situation to him. Licht is okay with it, as long as it ensures everyone's safety and allows them to become a non-killing army. The members of class are worried about Licht undergoing the surgery. They ask why Licht is the only one taking such a risk. Takakazi tells Fyrnda that they can't stand being a fodder character in yet another generic anime about with a black-haired teenager as a protagonist. However, Firenda explains that the surgery is for their protection, and since they're not professional soldiers yet, they need someone with special skills, and Licht is the perfect match for absolutely no reason. The class feels sad hearing this, but Licht smiles and says he's willing to take the chance to protect everyone, even though he's the most punchable of them all. In the operation room, Licht and Schmerman are placed on beds. Schmerman's blood is transfused into Licht as the operation begins. Takakazi and the others anxiously wait, hoping for a successful outcome. Meanwhile, the students are playing outside when they spot helicopters playing Fortunate Son. Alan notices them and initially thinks they're joint force helicopters, but it's too early for an attack. However, he remembers David's words about being tricked, and he rushes to inspect the choppers. Realizing the danger, Alan urgently tells everyone to evacuate. But before they can escape, one of the helicopters fires a missile at the school, destroying it and killing some students. Soldiers then enter the school, searching for the main body. Some of the girls survive the impact, but the enemy's sergeant orders his men, remember, no students, and everyone pulls a Makarov airport maneuver. While the chaos unfolds, the operation continues smoothly. Alan prepares his gun to confront the soldiers. Sonohara, despite holding a gun, almost gets shot, but Doan saves her by knocking out the soldier. Sonohara is so scared that she calls out for Licht to save her. Seeing she's frozen in fear, Doan picks her up and takes the gun, shooting at the approaching soldiers holding Sonohara's stress balls. Just as the soldiers are about to finish off Ikanos and the other girls, a chalk bag is thrown, creating a smoke screen. Jail and Takakazi use this opportunity to jump the soldiers and save the girls. The survivors hide in a classroom, confused about why the war has started when Althing said no war until next March. Alan couldn't give them an answer. Suddenly, he receives a communication from Firenda, who informs him that there was a revote. She explains that there are 7 ballots that can cast a vote in Althing, while other countries of the world hold a total of 4, more than half. In other words, the rest of the world tricked them and changed the ban to September without their knowledge. While Firenda is excited about this revelation, Alan questions if she's enjoying it, but she denies it. She informs them that there's a problem. The power supply has been cut, and if it's not restored, Licht will die because the genetic injections cannot be stopped manually. Licht is way over capacity, and soon his body will reject the procedure, leading to cardiac arrest. Someone needs to start the backup power of the school to save Licht. Alan learns that the soldiers have taken control of the school, so they need to stop them while also restoring the power. Knowing the danger, Alan asks for volunteers, meaning these bozos will die. The entire class agrees to go in order to save Licht. They all charge forward bravely instead of doing some Metal Gear Solid. Alan takes down a soldier with his gun, while Takakazi finishes off this stormtrooper bum. They make their way outside, but more soldiers start firing at them like their Call of Fortnite. Alan swiftly shoots them down, then declares that he's going ahead. They reach the power site, and Alan takes down 2 soldiers so they can advance. Suddenly, a guy with RPG has had enough and fired at the building, injuring Alan, but he expresses his happiness that he didn't have to watch the children die. The enemy's sergeant confronts Hina and Ikanos, threatening to harm them if they don't reveal the location of the main body. Despite the threat, Hina remains silent, standing her ground. The sergeant prepares to shoot her since she won't talk, while deep down she hopes Licht will come to their rescue. Light balls begin to rise from the school ground. Meanwhile, Licht is on the brink of death as the heart monitor reads 0. However, power is restored. The monitor starts to beep again. Licht wakes up, noticing his white hair, and hears Schmerman asking how he's feeling. He requests Firenda to bring an item, but she advises him to rest as the operation has put a lot of strain on him. However, Schmerman insists on giving Licht the item himself, urging Firenda to hurry as the children are in danger. She presses some buttons, revealing a sword. Schmerman explains that it functions as a ballot and amplifies Licht's power, but it won't work until Licht engraves it with his count, an oath he will be bound to. The process is simple. Licht must think of an oath, say, authenticate count. This will declare the thing to keep count of, like a streak kill counter, and the sword will recognize him as its master. Outside the school, there's a rumble, but it suddenly stops. The soldiers wonder what's happening when a red flash passes behind them. Crashing into a wall, it's Licht. The sergeant orders the soldiers to kill Licht, but their bullets stop as they reach him. Remembering Schmerman's words about receiving absolute strength, Licht realizes he's both Neo and the Silver Surfer combined. Everything around him freezes, and Schmerman advised him to walk slowly until he gets used to it. Licht flicks away bullets effortlessly, then notices his friend's state, angering him. He begins attacking the enemy choppers, who are still spinning for some reason. The soldiers run out of bullets, and the sergeant, frustrated, asks why Licht won't kill them. Pulling out his dagger, he faces Licht, who counters, stating they are the punch and kick merchant army. Licht overpowers the sergeant, knocking him out with the hilt of his sword, securing victory. Licht resolves to eradicate war and killing. He knows it won't be easy, but together they'll overcome hardships. Ikanos takes the lead as girls are suddenly in love with Licht's mad riz, including the boys, too. They're all laughing together when the sergeant and his men appear, laughing at their ideals. They reveal their bodies strapped with explosives, intending to blow them all up. But before the sergeant can press the detonator, Licht zooms past him, snatching it away and smashing it. Insists the world is cruel, and survival means either they die or Licht and his friends die. He starts the countdown, saying killing is how they protect their families. Licht begs him to stop, but the sergeant argues that such a death is honorable and beneficial for their families. With the countdown reaching 5, Licht recalls their promise not to be an army that kills. Almost reaching 1, Takakaze yells at Licht to stand down as he charges towards the sergeant, ready to end them. But Licht swiftly knocks the sword from Takakaze's hands and beheads the sergeant and his men with a single swing, shocking his friends with his ult. Before dying, the sergeant admits he played Licht like a fiddle, because the nuke is also a lie, but commends Licht for his bravery, advising him to do his best to survive the war. His friends are worried about him, but he acts like his usual silly self, saying it's gross he got blood all over him and runs out to wash it off. Licht started throwing up, unable to believe he had killed people. He realized that Doan was right, the war wouldn't end unless they killed the enemy. He realizes he had broken their promise, but he eventually concluded that it's okay as long as he's the one doing the killing. The others are still fine. He makes his decision and authenticates his count, pledging to be the one to kill the enemies for everyone. Licht returns to the group, sad, but promises them they'll make sure to end the war quickly, which everyone agrees to. They celebrate their peace, but Licht decides then and there that he won't let them kill anyone, and their class will be an army that doesn't kill, except for him cause he loves killing now. He won't let them feel what he did when he killed for the first time. That day, war broke out around the world, a war intended to decrease the global population until it matched its food output. Licht went off to war and returned safely, but his classmates noticed his changed mood. He had killed 337 people that day, unlocking the Predator missile ability multiple times. As he washed off in the shower, he was still disgusted by what he had become. But then a young girl named Nana approached him, asking if he was okay. He stared at her, but then smiled. Licht became the second ace born after many years, playing with the girl and caring for her like an older brother. However, he began to change more and more every day due to overexposure to Schmerman's genes. He started to develop unhealable scars all over his body and mind, with Schmerman's killer impulses taking more and more control as he killed. By the time he had killed 10,000 people, he had lost the ability to goon. Even when the girls tried to cheer him up, he had lost his riz, simply ordering them not to kill anyone and walking away. The girls realized that Licht wasn't himself anymore, which made them sad. Ikanos insisted that they wouldn't give up on bringing back their cheerful Licht. Fyrnda was able to get into his head, convincing him that if he didn't kill, others would have to start killing. Since then, he picked up a mask that he wore always and never took off in front of the others. The class marched to Schmerman's office, with Takakaze leading the way. He declares they can't let Licht do all the killing alone because they're a team and they'd like a kill streak ability too. Schmerman asks if they truly want to undergo the operations Licht is undergoing, which they all confirm, not wanting Licht to be distant anymore. Schmerman agrees, which Alan opposes. Schmerman suggests going ahead of schedule since the plan was to operate on all of them. 4 additional compatible subjects are found and made aces: Takakaze, Doan, Sonohara, and Captain Alan. They hope this will stop Licht from doing all the killing. However, when Takakaze and Sonohara try to follow Licht for his next mission, he orders them not to come, threatening Takakaze that he'll cut him down if he disobeys. They can't believe Licht has become so cold, unaware that Licht is hurting on the battlefield, but you can't take him seriously because of that silly mask he chose. Fyrnda tells Alan and Schmerman it's time to take the offensive and aim for the other ballots. She warns that they'll be wiped out if they keep being defensive. Alan opposes this, but Schmerman is ready to start the second plan named Alsha. Fyrnda explains they can gain unfathomable power by obtaining all 7 original ballots and achieving a unanimous vote. With this power, they can create their Utopia, Alsha, before it's too late. Schmerman agrees, stating there's no hope for saving the world, but they can save the children. He acknowledges that Licht won't forgive him for this, but he's ready to take all the blame. Meanwhile, Licht starts going berserk, swinging his sword at his classmates and screaming to kill the enemies. Takakaze and Genji try to hold him back, but he's too strong, flinging them away. Sonohara tries to talk to him, but Takakaze tells her to stand back. Licht continues going berserk, eventually cutting off Sonohara's arm. Despite this, class members still follow his orders and stay out of battle, saddened by the realization that Licht's only remaining connection to them is his desire to prevent them from killing anyone. If he loses that desire, they fear he may never return to them. 2 years later, with the war finally over, Nana is ecstatic. She records a video, expressing her joy that she no longer needs to use her powers to predict enemy positions. She even confesses her feelings for Licht, mentioning a spark she felt when they first met. She plans to make the video her love letter to him. However, Licht has been asleep for 3 months since the war's end. She resolves to train and become more feminine for him until he wakes up, oblivious to the events that occurred on the day the war ended. As it turns out, Schmerman and the others collected all 7 original Dragon Balls or something and passed a resolution by unanimous vote to leave the world behind and create their Utopia, Alsha. Using all things unfathomable power, they created a continent above the ground. Then, with another unanimous vote, they plundered all the resources from below to prevent attacks from the ground. The population of Alsha was created from embryos of people from different nations and races. However, the new population was kept unaware of the former civilization and the true nature of all things. Alsha was governed by absolute power and the Sphit, with a count enforced on the population. Alsha prospered while the Abyss, the world left behind, struggled with limited resources, stripped away by all things. Takakaze opposed this, so he took one of the ballots, declaring that class A was against it and ready to rebel. He ran away with it. But Firanda stopped Alan from chasing him, insisting that Licht should handle it. In their final confrontation, Licht ended up killing Takakaze, shocking Class A. As Takakaze fell to the ground, he recalled moments from his youth with Licht. Licht's mask finally came off as he cried, realizing what he had done. Firanda comforted him, but Ikanos reached out to give him a chance to come back. However, Licht blamed himself and never returned. Since that day, his heart stopped beating. 20 years after the Waste War, Licht finally woke up, unchanged in appearance but bearing the weight of the years he missed. He never smiled again. Desperate to find out what happened to the rest of Class A, he discovered that they had stayed at the school to save as many war orphans as possible. Despite their efforts, food was scarce due to the barren land, and whatever they produced was often taken away by Alsha. To ensure the children could eat, the members of Class A sacrificed themselves. That day, Licht and Nana managed to escape the military, but even 50 years later, he refused to remove his mask. His refusal persisted for 100 years, leaving Nana hopeful that one day he would return to his old self and remove the mask. She vowed to ask him to marry her when that day came, even though she would be old by then. She had waited 200 years for him. However, after 300 years, Licht still hadn't removed his mask. Consumed by regret, Alsha had become prosperous by stealing from those left in the Abyss. Licht, after 3 centuries of contemplation, decided to take down Alsha. He planned to fight the entire military organization alone, driven by his sense of responsibility and remorse. Meanwhile, a young girl called Hina watches with wide eyes as her mom gets pulled into a dark hole. But before disappearing, her mom hands her a special ballot and tells her to find the legendary ace. No matter what, with a heavy heart, Hina buries her mom and begins her journey, feeling lonely since she was young and thinking she might always be alone. After a long trip, Hina arrives at a busy town and decides to take a break at a resort. There, she meets some girls who are amazed that she traveled so far. When Hina mentions she's looking for someone important, the legendary ace, the girls are surprised because they thought it was just a fairy tale. Suddenly, a strange doll drifts towards them in the water, and out pops Licht, scaring the girls away except for Hina, who stays put. Licht quickly asks her for money, but she's too scared and runs away. Remember, Licht is a 300-year-old Gunnar Drake fan and chases after her, still asking for money and food, but luckily, he gets knocked into a tree by Nana, who is now a woman. She gives Hina some food and protects her from Licht. Curious, Nana asks Hina her name and where she's from. Hina explains that she's from a small place deep in the mountains, just her and her mom. She tells Nana how her mom was suddenly pulled into the ground one day. Nana says it was the Abyss, but Hina doesn't know what that is. Nana then points out that everyone in the world has a number on them, and they're ruled by those numbers. She explains how her number 77 represents how many times customers said delicious to her. Hina realizes she has a number 2, 441 on her thighs, but Licht, being a pervert, tries to see her undies. Nana sends him flying, and other girls in the street kick him away too, as he's known for being a pervert who peeks under girls' undies. Nana keeps explaining that it's crucial to keep raising her count, because if it drops to 0, she'll be sent to the abyss, and that means instant doom. Nana notices Hina's sad face and apologizes for talking about scary stuff, but Hina assures her it's okay. Then, Nana adds something else. People with higher numbers must be obeyed. She then asks Hina what she's counting, and Hina says she's counting her steps, which shocks Nana because steps are counted in every 100 kilometers, meaning Hina has walked over 40,000 kilometers. Hina explains she's been journeying for the past 5 years to find the legendary ace, just like her mom wanted. This legendary ace has a white star and has done amazing things. Hina asks Nana if she knows this ace, but Nana says it's just a legend. However, Hina insists she's heard that this person is in the town. Hina is approached by the military, and the sergeant claims to be the one she's looking for. When she sees the white star on his face, she's so happy she sheds tears, saying she's been traveling for so long to find him. The sergeant asks her to follow him so they can talk more at his house. Nana tries to interfere, but the sergeant warns her it's military business. Hina leaves with them, waving goodbye and thanking Nana and Licht for their kindness. Hina finds herself in trouble as the sergeant tries to flirt with her. She quickly changes the topic by showing him the ballot. The soldiers immediately take a serious stance, which confuses Hina. The sergeant asks if she's a ballot holder, but she has no idea what that means. So, he draws his sword and demands she hand it over. Hina explains it's her mom's memento. The sergeant slices the couch to show he's serious. He's about to attack her, but she stops him, saying her count is higher than his, so he has to obey her orders. The sergeant accepts but tells her to bet her stars, and they should enter a star stake, or else he has no obligation to obey her. Hina agrees, not knowing what it means. As it becomes official, hands start coming out from the ground, and the sergeant closes the distance, punching her, explaining that the star stake is an official battle where they wager their count. Then, he throws her out of the window, following her outside, saying the star stake is a privilege given to soldiers. He begins strangling her, and she begs him to stop. He says it means she's accepting defeat. The hands from the ground appear and take all her stars, leaving just one, then adds it to the sergeant's stars. He asks her to hand over the ballot, or would she prefer another star stake? She asks why he's doing all this when the ace is supposed to be a hero of the Waste War. That's when he reveals the white stars on his face was fake, and adds that the ace she's looking for is probably dead since the war took place 300 years ago. He calls her and her mother fools for believing in such a fairy tale, saying she wasted her years looking for someone that doesn't exist, which makes Hina sad that he deceived her, and her mother was wrong. He keeps pressuring her to give the ballot when Licht flies in to save her, saying he will bet on her behalf. But he laughs, seeing Licht has a negative 999, calling him the lowest of the lows, and that Licht can't defeat him. He thrusts his sword at Licht, then sends him flying into a bench. Hina runs to check on him, but the sergeant pushes her aside and begins slashing at Licht, laughing at him. But his men tell him to stop, as although Licht's count is negative, he hasn't been sent to the abyss, and Licht is canceling out all his attacks, which makes the sergeant stop, realizing it's true. He asks Licht to identify himself, about to cut him, but Licht dodges it and appears behind Hina. He tells her to stop looking for the aces, as they are not heroes but murderers, and she should just go back and live a normal life. His mask shatters from the sergeant's slash, revealing his face, and his sword shows his true count was 5,700, and it had a white star. He pulls her close, and Hina begins to cry because this is the legendary ace she's looking for. Licht tells Hina to close her eyes tight, and she does just that. Suddenly, the soldier charges at him. Licht leaps out of the way super fast, and the ground cracks under his feet, sending the soldier flying. He starts zipping around like lightning, breaking the ground and buildings with each jump. The sergeant can't keep up at all. Finally, Licht sneaks up behind him and steps on the ground, and the force sends the sergeant crashing into a wall. Every time Licht steps, it's like a wave hitting the sergeant. He demands the sergeant give back the count he took from Hina, and apologizes to her as well. He hits the sergeant with his sword, but the sergeant won't quit. He keeps attacking, but Licht dodges it. Licht sends him flying to the air and delivers a bunch of flashy strikes. This is why they call him the ace of flashing strikes. And just because he's got a negative count doesn't mean he's weak. It's just that he's been turned down by girls a bunch of times. He jumps high into the air, telling Hina he will return her stars too. As he jumps down, he deals the final blow to the sergeant, who gives up. The hands take 759 counts from the sergeant, leaving just one, and gives it to Hina, making her count 760. Licht tells her he's okay, and she starts crying tears of joy. Then Licht snatches the ballot from her, saying he could make money selling it. Hina's confused, and Licht says he's got the upper hand because he has more count, but if she doesn't like it, she can bet her stars. Hina cries again, saying her mom told her to find the ace. Licht gives her a doll for the ballot and tells her he's not the ace she's looking for before leaving. She returns to meet Nana, explaining how Licht took her ballot. Nana examines the doll Licht left, then gives it back to Hina, telling her to hold on to it, saying she'll know what to do with it soon enough. Hina looks at the doll confused, but it suddenly explodes into flowers, revealing her ballot. Licht never took it, but Nana adds that holding a ballot is a serious crime against the Alshian laws, scaring Hina. In a small town in the middle of nowhere, two military officials, Lin and Peel, are helping the townsfolk. Lin is doing most of the work, as her count increases based on the people she helps. Peel tells her that despite all this, she won't be promoted. But Lin doesn't mind, as long as she can help the people. She says she won't stray from her mission to catch any criminals if she sees one. That's when Peel shows her a wanted poster of Licht that HQ sent, revealing he's a legendary ace who wears a mask. But Lin doesn't want to believe that legendary aces are still alive, and it's weird that someone would be walking around wearing a mask. However, she's wrong, as they see someone in a pudding costume wearing a mask. Lin approaches him, trying to pull it off, saying the description matches the poster. But the person defends that the masks are different. Lin realizes it's true and lets him go, apologizing. Later, Licht reveals to Lin and the townspeople that he's the one behind the mask, and they start chasing him. But suddenly, Licht stops, and Lin thinks it's her chance to catch him. However, he yells at her to stop and pushes her away just as an iron spike emerges from the ground where he was standing, impaling him. This saves Lin from being hurt. Behind Licht are some soldiers, and Peel rushes to greet their leader, Lieutenant Jail. He introduces him to Lin, but doesn't stop Jail. He attacks Licht with iron spears emerging from the ground. Licht tries to avoid them by going up a hill, but the irons also sprout from the hill. So, Licht diverts his route and unleashes his flash strikes, jumping around so fast that they can't see him. He tries to escape, but Jail intercepts him in the air, firing a huge iron that pushes him back to the ground. Licht realizes Jail isn't at 900. Jail traps Licht and himself inside a fence built from iron, revealing that he hides his true number because he doesn't want to be promoted and stay behind a desk. He wants to continue fighting and punishing evil. He reveals his true count is 12,500. Jail shoots a large iron toward Licht, who tries to block it with his sword, but the iron keeps coming. Jail aims another one from the side, hitting Licht and sending him flying. Lin and the others start worrying, but Licht starts jumping even faster than before, trying to surprise attack Jail. But Jail predicts it and moves out of the way. Then, he uses an iron bar that pops up right where Licht is standing, sending his sword flying into the air. Now it's a fist fight. They exchange blows, but neither hits the other. Jail catches Licht's arm, flips him, then kicks him away. Licht's sword finally falls from the air, and Jail catches it, tossing it back to Licht, saying his famous flashing strikes are too slow anyway. Licht won't accept that. He jumps high into the air, and the soldiers beg Jail to retreat, saying if the reports are true, Jail can't stop Licht's high-altitude strike. But Jail isn't moved. He checks if Licht is flying or jumping by aiming iron blades at him. Licht deflects them, and Jail concludes that Licht is just jumping and can't dodge in the air. So, he starts throwing many iron bars at Licht, who tries his best to avoid them. Jail tells Licht that his count is based on his convictions, and the irons he creates are based on those convictions. That's why he can take down any criminal and is known as the Iron Will, Iron Jail. Licht, unable to avoid the iron bar, falls straight into a huge iron bar Jail shoots from the ground, knocking him down and allowing Jail to capture him in an iron prison. He undoes the iron fence, then Licht accepts defeat. But Jail isn't done. He creates an iron whip to hit Licht, but to their surprise, Lin jumps in front, blocking the attack. She talks to Jail, asking him to take it easy, but he scolds her, saying it's the reason she's still below because she lacks the resolve to be a military officer. He tells her to stop wasting time on trivial tasks and focus on her military duties. The townspeople try to defend her, but she tells them not to worry, agreeing with Jael and saying she will apologize. But Licht tells her not to. He frees himself from the iron and reveals that he didn't cut Jael's iron, not because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to damage the town. Jael says it means Licht was hiding his true powers. He arms himself with iron arms and attacks Licht, who blocks the attack with his sword. Their clash releases massive energy, causing the ground to break apart, and Lin starts falling off the cliff's edge. Jael immediately stops attacking Licht and goes to save Lin, but Licht is faster, so he goes after her. Lin opens her eyes to see Licht holding her, but he ruins the moment by saying she's heavy, which angers her. She tries to punch him, but he dodges. Then he throws her to Jael, who is still jumping down. Licht waves goodbye to Jael, but Jael isn't letting him go. It's futile to fight while falling, so Jael decides to return by creating iron steps from the cliff to climb back up. He drops Lin, who yells at him for calling her heavy. He remembers Licht's words about the town being peaceful. Because Lin is there, so he decides to help her project. He builds a park for the children with his iron and tells her she has 3 days to fill it up with plaster since his iron doesn't last when he's far away. He also adds that she will come with him for the next mission, which makes her happy. Licht is walking around the market with Hina when he's approached by Lin, who scolds him for making her search for him. She thanks him for saving her life, but then handcuffs him to arrest him since he's a criminal. Their chat ends when Jael joins in to fight Licht. He creates iron from the ground, scaring the people away, then arms himself with his iron, and they start fighting. He tells Licht not to hold back and reveal his true powers. Licht backs away, and he's about to punch him, but then Nana calls their attention, saying their brawl messed up the town. She orders them to clean it up, and they both put away their weapons. Jael wakes up in the middle of the square to find it empty. Nana had made them party and drink until they were drunk. He wakes up Lin and Peel, saying they have to go after them. Meanwhile, Licht and his group head to Andeses, while Jael and his group hurry to Linden thinking Licht is there, but they come across a weakened soldier who collapsed on the road. They reach Linden and see it's been destroyed. Peel calls Jael's attention to the lake, and they reach there only to see the lake is now a swirling dark abyss that they can't even see the bottom of. They are unsure about the abyss when they spot an injured soldier. Jael asks him what happened, and the soldier says that a demon came from the abyss. He said it was a peaceful day, but the ground started to rumble, and when he looked, he saw the lake had been replaced by the big black hole. Then the demon appeared, but the soldier was too shocked to even explain what it looked like. Jael forces him to talk, and he says the demon came, and their bows and swords had no effect against it. Before they knew it, everywhere was destroyed, and people were killed by the flames it spewed. Jael says it must be a ballot holder with fire powers, but the soldier screams that it wasn't human but a demon, and it was flying. Then the soldiers finally collapse from shock. They take the soldier to be treated in the nearby town, but Jael is confused as there's no way a military personnel or ballot holder can fly. Flying and studying to fly are even banned. In order to know what this demon was, he decides to go find Licht. He comes across Licht and his group who were in the neighboring town. Jael immediately attacks him, and Licht steps in front to protect Hina, but the iron stops in the air. Jael explains what happened in the previous town with the demon from the abyss, but Licht doesn't know what that is. Jael says he knows Licht is not the demon, but he's sure Licht knows something, and he wants to get that information out of him. Nana tells them to calm down as they are ruining her business, so they both put away their weapons. Jael sits, and Nana gives him wine to drink, but he thinks she wants to get him drunk again. She says it's just a friendly drink. Jael sits and drinks, and Licht pours him more, which he continues drinking. It ends up turning into a fight to see who can drink the most, and they both drink until they pass out. Nana feeds Jael some more, but the fun ends as the ground begins to rumble. People rush in to tell them that the dark hole has appeared in the town. They go to the area where the hole is, and there's a sound coming from it. The injured soldier comes, saying it's the same sound they heard before the demon of the abyss appeared. He goes into fear, saying the demon will wipe out the town and kill the people. The people begin to panic, but Jael tells them to calm down, ordering the soldiers to evacuate the civilians while those with shields should surround the hole and those with bows should prepare to attack. Licht listens to the sound and immediately tells Jael to order everyone to pull back away from the hole. Jael grabs his cape, saying Licht knew what the demon of the abyss was after all, but Licht is shocked at what the demon is, as it was meant to have been destroyed in the war. Peel tells Jael that the demon is coming out, and everyone is in shock as the demon emerges from the hole. Licht can't believe it still exists despite being destroyed from the sky in the war. The demon turns out to be a chopper, aiming its gun and shooting at them. Jael quickly creates an iron wall to block the attacks. The chopper flies away and turns back to fire a missile, which Jael also blocks, but it blows away half of the wall. Licht immediately orders the soldiers to evacuate the people and stay away from the chopper while he tries to take it down. Jael confronts him to explain, but Licht says they should prioritize saving the people, revealing the stars on his collar, shocking Jael and the others to learn that Licht is a colonel. Jael is shocked that Licht might actually be the legendary ace. Licht tries to take out the chopper, avoiding its bullets and trying to draw its attention. People begin to evacuate, running for their lives. One child is left in the road, and Hina tries to help him, but the chopper aims a missile at her. Luckily, Licht steps in and slices the missile, exploding it in the air. He goes after the chopper, and everyone has faith in him, praying he makes it. But then many black hands merge from the ground, which the military calls Althing, swatting him down onto a building. Althing goes after the chopper, but it's too high for it to reach. Licht tries to go after it, but Althing stops him. Licht keeps trying, and Hina asks why. Peel says Althing attacks anything that comes in hands. The figure appears behind Licht, pointing a gun to his head, calling him commander. Licht turns to see it's Sonohara. Jael asks who she is, but he's shot in the chest by Sonohara and falls to the ground. Licht goes to check on him. Lin asks why she did it, and Sonohara introduces herself as one of the legendary aces, the ace of pursuit. She announces that they all forget what they saw and not mention it. But since that's something that's impossible, she proceeds to fire at the people, killing both civilians and soldiers. Licht goes to stop her, but she hugs him from behind, saying she misses him. He turns to her, begging her to stop. She hugs him, saying she obeyed his order to kill people and continues shooting the people. She says she changed for him, and Licht tries to free himself from her grip. She frees him, and he jumps down. She flies higher, saying just like him, she will kill the people calmly and quickly, and Licht should praise her in the end. She starts raining bullets on the people. Licht goes to stop her, but she shoots at him. He blocks the bullet, but they follow him regardless. She tells him not to forget that her power is that her shots follow the target no matter where he runs or hides. The bullets behind Licht change trajectory to his front and hit him, causing him to fall to the ground. Hina runs to him, but she's held hostage by another soldier pointing a gun to her head. More soldiers of Sonohara put the rest in gun hostage. Peel tries to save Lin, but he's punched, and they are all subdued. Sonohara tells Licht that to save them, he just has to go back to the way he was. But Licht begs her to stop as he doesn't want to kill her. She says that she desires him to kill her, but he won't because he's just Rihito, the kind-hearted senior. So they pin him down, and in front of him, one of the soldiers points a gun at a child's head. She tells him to become the ace of flashing strike, or else the child will die. And she's sure he can feel the burning desire to kill fueling in him. Licht assures the child he will save him, but the boy starts crying for his mommy. Sonohara tells him not to make promises he can't keep. She leaves and orders the soldier to kill the child. There's a gunshot, but Sonohara turns to see half of her men dead. Licht, the men were being wiped out at great speed. Licht picks up his sword even when Nana tells him to stop. He tells her to be quiet. He tells all of them that they all wondered who he was. He wears his mask and says he's the plunderer, wiping the gun off Hina. He says his goal is to take everything from Elsha. He now faces Sonohara, who is so happy that he's back to his old self and he can now kill her. He tells her not to forget the rules when two aces fight. She agrees, saying she will bet all her stars, which he also accepts, and Althing appears to officiate it. The star stake. They begin fighting, Licht avoiding her bullets and Sonohara firing away. The others are shocked, and Nana says this is the fight between two legendary aces, which only ends until one of them dies. Lin says Licht will be fine, but Hina says she's not sure as Sonohara's count is 32,000, while Licht's is 5,700. Licht is deflecting the bullets, but a bullet finally hits him, slamming him into a wall. But Peel says it's not possible, and between Licht and Jael's fight, Licht held his own despite Jael having a higher count. And the only possibility is that Licht is hiding his true powers. Licht stands and shouts as he releases a red aura into the sky, and his count begins to increase, which the others didn't believe was possible. But Nana says it isn't since Licht is an ace. By the time it stops, Licht's count has gone up to 57,000, and Nana is scared. Sonohara is happy with this and says Licht can finally kill her as he can preserve the killing intent from him. But as she blinks, she doesn't see him on the ground. She becomes scared. looking around to see where he will come from. He appears behind her, and she fires at him, but he jumps away. She tells him it's impossible as her bullet will follow him. But she's shocked as she sees her bullet falling to the ground cut in half. Licht appears behind her, overwhelming her by hitting her from all directions, not letting her react. Nana tells them to get away from Licht as he's no longer Licht. She says that Licht had told her that by releasing the power of the ace, another personality takes over, which Licht says is the intent to kill. Schmerman. Licht screams as his aura changes from red to purple, unleashing the power of the ace. Licht charges at Sonohara, who shoots at him, but her bullets bounce off. Nana warns everyone that Licht has turned into a monster who'll hurt anyone nearby, whether they're friend or foe, until he collapses from exhaustion. Sonohara runs out of ammo and Licht hits her, creating a bright light that sends her crashing into a wall. Peel notices Sonohara's count has reduced to 16,000. Nana explains that Sonohara was under the control of another personality, seeking stronger power, but now she's back to herself. Sonohara opens her eyes, sees blood on her hands, and screams. Nana reveals that among the aces, there was a girl who never killed, but she was scared and felt useless. Yet she was the kindest among them. Sonohara starts crying, realizing what's happening. Nana says they must have used a drug on Sonohara to force her powers out against Licht. Licht approaches her, calling her names, and Sonohara shoots at him, declaring herself the enemy. Hina hugs Licht, begging him to stop and return to his normal self. He grabs her, saying she's an enemy, but Sonohara shoots at him, buying them time to run. Licht kicks her away and prepares to deliver a final blow, but Sonohara just wants to see him smile like before. Jail intervenes, stopping Licht and wearing Sonohara's glasses for her. He faces Licht, affirming he's the new enemy. Jail gets ready to face Licht, who raises his sword to attack. Their clash creates a blinding light, making it hard to see, and Jail is pushed back, his chest wound reopening. Sonohara urges him to stop just as Licht is about to strike, and she jumps in to shield Jail from harm. She tells Licht to stop and apologize for shooting Jail, but he remains calm, wiping the tears from her eyes. Nana warns them to watch out as Licht unleashes another attack, but Jail easily blocks it with an iron pebble, showing his conviction is stronger than Licht's blade. He then hurls an iron bar at Licht, sending him crashing down. Jail questions if this is truly what Licht believes in. Licht explains he must eliminate all enemies of war to prevent his friends from becoming murderers themselves. Jail acknowledges the flawed belief, but commits to fighting Licht properly. He dons another glove with a counter on it and creates an iron statue to battle Licht. Using the statue, Jail lands a blow that sends Licht flying, then pins him to the ground. He removes the mask from Licht's face, and Licht returns to himself. The others celebrate, and Sonohara thanks Jail for saving her, but he coughs and collapses from his injury. They rush to treat him, while Hina expresses relief that Licht is okay. In the cottage, they tend to Licht's wounds, and he's improving. Hina asks about Jail, and Peel informs them that Jail was summoned by the Supreme Commander. Jail meets the Supreme Commander, who turns out to be the former Captain Allen. Jail questions him about the soldiers in black uniforms who attacked them, claiming to be part of the Alshian military. Allen reveals that it's a secret known only to top officials. The black uniformed soldiers are actually part of the Alshian Supreme Military Council's Special Services Unit, tasked with assassinations and abductions under the royal family. Allen warns Jail to steer clear of them, as they're all powerful elites with ballots, and crossing them could be deadly. Back at the cottage, Licht understands why Jail was summoned, but the others are confused. Licht agrees to turn himself in, suspecting that the council figured out they attacked Althing and offered to spare Jail's men if he handed Licht over. Meanwhile, Licht's count continues to decrease. Sonohara pleads with Jail not to turn Licht in, fearing they'll drug him like they did her and use him as a weapon of war. Jail pushes her aside, binding her, Lin, and Peel to the wall with his iron to prevent them from interfering. He's about to take Licht when Hina begs him not to, clinging to Licht. Nana intervenes, slapping Jail and shocking everyone. She tells him that he talks about convictions but never makes decisions on his own, always following orders against his will just to save those around him. Licht, on the other hand, would defy those orders and take on the army and the nation to protect everyone. Jail realizes she's right and releases everyone. Nana starts shedding tears, reminiscing about how 300 years ago, they were the only ones who stood up against Licht and believed in him too. She reveals her power and assures them she'll take care of them. Nana urges them to go back 300 years to see what happened and possibly change things, as she couldn't. She warns them to be careful, emphasizing that it's not a dream and letting their guard down could be fatal. Jail, Peel, Lin, and Hina find themselves in an unfamiliar place. They see Sonohara heading towards a building and call out to Licht, who is also approaching. Licht looks at them as if recognizing them, but Sonohara pulls him inside. They enter the building, filled with people attending the opening ceremony of the military school. Jail notices that this Licht seems different from their Licht. Someone bumps into Hina, Doan, who rudely pushes Lin to the ground. Jail steps in to defend them, but realizes he doesn't have his powers. Doan punches him, drawing attention, but a fight is avoided. Later, they eat in the cafeteria, where Jail and Takakazi don't get along. Hina thanks Licht for saving her earlier, teasing him about his tendency to save girls, which leads to a playful squabble. Peel informs them about the record room, where he shows them a video of something falling from the sky and the Althing file. However, he's denied access to further information. Captain Allen arrives, explaining Althing's role as a god that saved humanity and its impact on the world before leaving. They realize that Althing wasn't created in Alsha and that everything about Alsha originated from here. Jail acknowledges that their task is more significant than just learning about Licht. During their camp, Klasa decides to become an army that doesn't kill, with Schmerman encouraging them. Jail, however, becomes skeptical of Schmerman's motives. He follows Schmerman to his office and overhears him talking with his crew about plans to take down Althing, the Aces Project, and display the power of the ballots. Jail senses evil intent from Schmerman and collapses to his knees. Captain Allen hears his labored breathing when young Nana approaches, warning Jail that he'll be killed in 5 seconds if he doesn't leave. Captain Allen comes out to check, but nobody is there. Nana escorts Jail to her room, ensuring his safety before teleporting to a nearby clock, surprising Jail with her abilities. She reveals herself as Experiment Number 7, nicknamed Nana, explaining that she's from the future. Future Nana instructed her to educate those she sends to the past about current events, proposing a game to Jail, who declines. She clarifies that she's the first ace with time-traveling powers. Jail realizes that all the aces were products of the school. Nana explains that people with genetic synchronicity to Althing, like Schmerman, emerged after its discovery, gaining powers without ballots. Schmerman's DNA was used to create more wizards by implanting it into others. They used children like her for the experiment, but she was the only one who survived. Nana reveals Licht is next for the surgery, and Jail ponders if they should stop it to alter the future. However, Nana admits her future self provided few details. Jail questions why Licht becomes a killer in the future and why Klasa never becomes a non-killing army, but Nana lacks answers. As time dwindles, Nana feels dejected. She gives Jail a memory card, a gift from her future self, explaining its significance. Jail offers to take her with him, but she declines, fearing it would change the future. Yet, Jail believes the change should start with him helping her. She smiles, understanding why he wasn't sent alone, and encourages him to continue without her. Jail promises to return in 300 years to fulfill her wish, and she agrees, bidding him farewell as he ventures on his journey. After gathering all the information, Hina insists they can still save Licht. They just have to stop him from becoming a killing monster by helping him keep his promise of not killing anyone. They believe they can win the war without letting Licht kill anyone. Since Licht values them as classmates, they can support him by staying by his side. Jail joins them, agreeing with Hina and saying they can save Licht and Nana too. Peel argues that Licht becomes an ace and wins the war by going on a killing spree. Hina disagrees, saying ordinary Licht is stronger than killing Licht, a point Jail admits to. Recalling his first fight with Licht, Peel gives up the argument, and Hina insists they must prevent Licht from killing anyone. Allen interrupts them, announcing that friends say the operation is going fine. Hina relays this news to the others, indicating that Licht's surgery is going well. Lin feels disappointed in herself for not figuring out how to help Licht, but Hina did. Peel comforts her, telling her not to blame herself and acknowledging her helpful nature as a likable trait. Lin denies anyone liking her, but before Peel could confess his feelings, the war begins and the school comes under attack. They witness Licht killing the soldiers for the first time to prevent them from detonating the non-existent nukes. Feeling sad because they couldn't stop it, Hina rushes to check on him. She searches for him and finds him regretting his actions, not even listening to her attempts to comfort him. Time is running out as they begin to glow and are pulled back to the future. Jail says goodbye to Takakazi and the others. Hina decides to somehow save Licht, but he activates his count to kill on behalf of everyone. She realizes they can't change Licht and understands that he took on the responsibility to save everyone by himself, even without being asked. Making her decision, she realizes she loves Licht. She kisses him and promises to always be by his side. She vows to support him, to have his children, and to shower him with love no matter what, letting him know he's never alone. They return to the future, and Nana acknowledges that they couldn't change the future, but she's okay with it. She just wanted them to understand how everything started. She suggests they go eat, but Hina asks to see Licht. She finds him on a cliff and asks if they can pick up where they left off 300 years ago. But Licht tells Hina that he can't pick up where they left off because she's still a child, and he's over 300 years old. Covering her up with his cape, he advises her to grow up and pursue things she loves with someone she truly cares about. Upon their return to the camp, everyone is shocked when Jael punches Licht suddenly. He asks Peel to give him the tablet they brought back. It contains Nana's video after the war, where she mentions being Licht's wife, embarrassing Nana. The video continues with Nana reporting Licht's well-being, and the final clip shows her crying, confessing that Licht is reminded of the war whenever he sees her, and she doesn't know what to do. She begs someone to save him. Nana tries to defend herself, saying they were things she said when she was still young, but Licht hugs her and apologizes. He explains that he didn't take off the mask because he didn't know what expression to wear, and he didn't want to worry her. Many times, he couldn't even fake a smile to reassure her. But the truth is, he survived for 300 years because she was by his side. He apologizes to her again, and she accepts it. Later, Licht tries to leave the camp, but Hina won't let him go without keeping his promise to her. She sets traps for him, stopping him. One of the traps hangs him upside down from a tree. She frees him, and he tries to run, but she starts crying, saying that every time, Licht is always leaving her behind, even when he promises not to. Since she returned from the past, he's been completely avoiding her, and she asks if he hates her that much. Licht wants to clear things up and asks if Hina's mother is Tsukina, leaving Hina shocked that he knows her mother's name. Licht explains that Tsukina was his childhood friend, but he wasn't sure if she lived after 300 years. Seeing Hina with the original ballot confirmed to him that she was Tsukina's daughter. He reveals that the ballot grants the owner the right to cast a vote to all things, and gathering all 7 can control anything, even the laws of nature, the secret of Alsha. He speculates that Tsukina must have taken it from the special service unit under Schmerman, something she's great at. Meanwhile, Schmerman receives a report that they've found Hina. The soldier suggests retrieving the ballot, but Schmerman insists it's part of the plan. He's giving Licht something to protect, a way for Licht to return to him as the ace of flashing strikes he desires. Licht tells Hina he's not the ace she's looking for and asks if she knows about her father. She replies that her mother told her he died a while back. Licht reveals that he was the one who killed him and that Hina met him in the past. He introduces her father as Takakaze and explains that Tsukina was his fiancée. Hina is shocked to learn all this. He adds that Hina is the name of the ballot Takakaze used in the Waste Wars. Licht believes she should see him as a hero, but also as the enemy she should hate for killing her father. He informs her that he will be leaving her once again to face the enemy army. Overwhelmed by this new information, Hina faints. Before he leaves, Jael confronts Licht, asking him what he intends to do with the original ballot, and if Licht really plans to eradicate the nation with it. As a military officer, Jael feels it's his duty to stop Licht if that's the case. Licht draws his sword, ready to fight Jael. Jael admits he doesn't value friendship as much, but there are others in their group who do. He questions if Licht is leaving them, just like he did with Class A. Licht explains that he has to leave because those who follow him to the battlefield might die, and he can't allow them to get blood on their hands. He feels guilty for breaking his promise to create an army that doesn't kill, and he's the only one who should carry that burden. Jael mentions he knows what happened in the past, but Licht argues he's fighting for everyone. Jael calls him an idiot, pointing out the pain he caused those he left behind and the sins he carries for killing someone. Licht argues that it's better for him to bear the burden than for others to do the deed. He's traumatized by the smell of blood, but he's okay with fighting for them to keep their promise. Jael accuses Licht of seeking self-satisfaction. He warns Licht that if he thinks he can take on the whole army alone, Jael is ready to stand in his way. Licht agrees, both of them locking heads together. They go their separate ways, but Licht asks Jael to protect Hina and everyone else. As he flies through the air, he expresses gratitude for the group and wishes he could accept Hina's feelings. However, he's scared he'll hurt someone dear to him again. He only hopes that when everything is over, he can see her again. Schmerman is informed of Licht's approach, but he decides not to intercept and lets Doan take the lead, as he's been waiting for Licht all along. Licht reaches the capital, but is suddenly attacked by a gravity force that smashes him into the ground. Doan boasts that Licht's flashing strike is weak against his gravity power. with a number over 120,000 on his chest. Doan declares himself as Licht's natural enemy. Despite Licht's attempts to talk to Doan doesn't listen and mercilessly crushes him under many rocks. Even in his final moment, all Licht can remember is Hina. The group searches for Licht in the rubble. Peel finds him, but sadly informs the group that Licht is no more. Before they can mourn, they are surrounded by the military. Nana escapes, but they capture Peel, Lin, and Hina. In the cell, Doan interrogates them, wondering why they are in his memory and speculating that they weren't supposed to be in the school. Lin asks if he killed Licht, and Doan affirms, mentioning that Licht had broken a promise he made but doesn't reveal the details. He asks about Sonohara, but they don't know, accusing them of lying. Doan tortures them with a gravity field until a soldier reports that Schmerman has arrived. He warns the group that Schmerman is not the same as 300 years ago, so they should watch their mouths to stay alive. Schmerman also suspects that Nana must have manipulated time by sending them to the past. Hina questions why he betrayed Class A after they believed in him, and Lin echoes her sentiment. However, a soldier interrupts, pointing a gun at Lin's mouth and insisting she address him as General. Schmerman explains that the selection began from the day of the entrance ceremony. The army that does not kill was a test to weed out the weak. If they were gullible enough to believe in such a fantasy, they weren't suited for the army, which saddens them. He then orders Doan to perform the ace operation on them, shocking everyone. He tells them not to worry about examining their genes and instructs them to test the new drug on them before leaving. The soldier moves to administer the drug to Hina, but Doan insists on carrying out the gene compatibility test. The soldier refuses, citing the general's orders, and explains that the drug can turn anyone into an ace without considering gene compatibility. Doan confronts the guard for his compliance and decides to free them, revealing that his count is based on the number of times he forces someone to submit to him. He refuses to obey the general's order and urges them to leave. As they prepare to depart, Hina tries to pick up her staff, but her bag gets caught in the soldier's belt, tearing it and causing the original ballot to fall out. Enraged, the soldier realizes they have the original ballot and uses his gravity to press them against the ground. He declares that he won't let them destroy Alsha, which the aces went through hell to create. He tells them he won't let anyone, women, or children destroy Alsha. Hina insists they weren't planning to, but he accuses her of lying and applies more gravity on her. He believes their association with Licht is proof of their intentions, so he decides to send them to join him in the afterlife. Hina, near the stairs, tries to run toward her horse, but he increases gravity on her to stop her, intending to kill her first. Lin and Peel hold on to Doan, releasing his gravity on Lin, allowing her to move. Hina tells her to reach Licht as there's no way he's dead. Doan kicks Peel away and strangles Hina, claiming Licht is dead, but Hina insists he's alive and urges Lin to wake him up. Lin quickly rushes to the horse, and Doan goes after her, using his gravity powers to throw rocks at her, injuring her legs. Despite the pain, Lin keeps riding. He returns to Hina and Peel, saying Lin will bleed out and die. Hina insists Lin will return with Licht no matter what, staring Doan in the eyes. He challenges her to bet her life, and she agrees, including Nana, who he reveals hiding behind a wall. Lin reaches Licht's location and crawls to him due to her injuries. She tries to wake him up, but he doesn't respond. By nightfall, Doan says he'll kill them by sunrise if Licht doesn't appear, confident he killed him. Lin realizes it's too late for Licht and tries to convey her thoughts, but gives up, falling unconscious. Suddenly, she wakes up to find the town people around her, treating her wounds and urging her to say her final words. She tells Licht that she loves him and bids goodbye. As the sun rises, Lin, still weak, tries to return to the others but starts to fall. Licht catches her, asking where everyone is. Realizing he's alive, she cries in his arms. Since the sun had risen, Doan prepares to use his gravity to kill them. But Hina still believes Licht will return, and Doan knows it too that Licht is not dead. He's about to crush her when Licht appears in a flash, carrying an injured Lin. Surprisingly, Doan pauses when Licht asks for a moment. Licht hands Lin to Peel, instructing him to treat her with the first aid nearby, as she has lost a lot of blood. Nana follows him, telling Hina to stay with Licht. Then, Licht apologizes to Hina, admitting he lied to her. He tells her she's not a child, expressing his love for her. He confesses that despite promising Lin he would tell her, he kept running from her. He says he can't be a hero because he killed her father. But Hina kept searching for him even when he tried to push her away. Licht acknowledges Hina's insight, realizing that even though he distanced himself from class by resorting to violence, he was never truly alone. He faces Doan, admitting his failure to uphold their promise. Though Licht hates breaking his vow to protect Alsha, Doan argues that the city's survival hinges on their actions, citing the threat of food and resource shortages if Alsha falls. Doan hurls rocks at Licht, who dodges them and attempts to slash through Doan's gravity sphere. Determined not to break his promise again, Licht resolves to reunite with Hina, severing the spear and sending Doan crashing to the ground. He proposes ending the conflict, but Sonohara suddenly reappears, now intent on killing Licht herself, turning the tables into a 2-against-1 scenario. As Sonohara opens fire, Licht tries to flee, but Doan anchors him with his gravity. Despite using his sword to deflect the bullets, Licht is struck, finding himself in a precarious situation. Both Sonohara and Doan relentlessly assault Licht. Sonohara's gunfire pursues him, while Doan's gravitational force pins him down whenever he attempts to escape. Even as Licht takes to the sky, Sonohara's bullets home in on him. Doan combines his power with the bullets, creating gravity-infused projectiles that knock Licht from the air. Despite the barrage, Licht remains resolute. Deciding it's time to conclude the battle, Doan employs gravity to immobilize Licht, while Sonohara continues her assault. Despite Licht's efforts to defend himself, Doan increases the gravitational force, forcing Licht to lower his guard. Sonohara expresses her disappointment in Licht for rejecting her when she sought to accompany him. She questions why she must shed more blood to be close to him. While Licht continues to evade her shots, Doan blames Licht for Sonohara's transformation, crushing him to the ground and accusing him of misleading them about becoming an army that doesn't kill. Licht tries to defend himself, but Doan crushes him harder, accusing him of breaking his promise. Licht recalls asking Doan during the war why they had to kill even children during the war. Doan simply said it was war, and now they had to ensure they were the last ones to do the killings. Licht tries to get Doan to listen, but he refuses. Nana jumps in, telling Doan to stop, saying it's not Licht's fault, but he hits her away. Unsure of what to do next and trying to save everyone, Licht wants to unleash his full ace potential, but he doesn't want to. Just as he's about to, Jael appears, breaking the gravity pull on Licht. Licht asks why Jael came, and Jael says Licht requested him to protect everyone, and he never turns down a friend's request. Doan and Sonohara attack them, but Licht and Jael deflect both attacks. Jael faces Sonohara, who asks why he interfered when Licht was about to become an ace again. Jael says Licht doesn't want to. Sonohara accuses him of lying and shoots at Jael, but the bullets are deflected. She mocks Jael, saying his power is just one, but he says it's enough to stop her. She fires at him, some bullets hitting while others are deflected. Sonohara boasts about being an ace, claiming Jael can't defeat her. But Jael counters, saying she's not like Licht, which angers her. She argues she's just like Licht and starts shooting at Jael, but her bullets don't touch him. Confused and frustrated, she vows not to let Jael tear her away from Licht, but her bullets prove ineffective against him. Jael calmly approaches her, pointing out that her bullets lack conviction. He empties her gun, and she tries another, but it still doesn't work. Jael explains that without true conviction, her bullets can't harm him. Sonohara tries reloading, but her hands shake with uncertainty. Jael closes the gap, questioning her convictions. She breaks down, admitting her conviction is to not shoot anyone, crying. Meanwhile, Doan is furious that Sonohara is defeated, but he knows he must face Licht to reach her. Licht deflects all of Doan's orbs, acknowledging that they're breaking their promise. Despite Doan hitting him with an orb, disarming his sword, Licht stands firm, rejecting a world where killing is necessary for gain. He vows to start anew, striving to create a better world with his newfound allies. He invites Doan to join him, but Doan refuses, and they engage in a fierce battle, nearly knocking each other out. Eventually, they both fall to their knees with bleeding foreheads. Reflecting on their shared past, Licht reminds Doan of the war they fought together. He confesses his struggle with killing kids, which led their enemies to manipulate children into attacking him. Despite Doan's intervention, Licht had to defend himself, unwilling to let Alsha fall into chaos again. As Doan unleashes his orbs, trapping Licht in a black hole, Licht refuses to accept defeat, determined to fulfill his promise and forge a better future. Licht wakes up to find himself in a field filled with skulls stretching as far as he can see. Suddenly, masks start appearing in front of him, claiming to be the masks of the Aces. They begin to fill his head with dark thoughts, saying they exist only to kill, and their souls will never find redemption. Even Licht's own mask appears, and he's ready to lash out. but the mask tells him something unsettling, that Licht is ready to even kill himself. The mask offers Licht a way out of all this. If he doesn't want to kill anymore, he can just stay there forever. Nobody can reach them, and since there's no one to kill, they no longer need to shed blood. But Licht refuses, saying he won't be trapped there. He slashes at one of the masks, but it just comes back together, warning him that the more he tries, the more pain he'll be in. Licht stands firm, declaring that his friends are waiting for him. He keeps slashing at the masks, but they keep rejoining. They call him a commander of an impossible dream, an army that doesn't kill, but is led by a killer. Licht admits that he has made mistakes, even hurting his friends in the process, but he wants to make things right. However, the mask tells him it's not possible. The only solution is for him to stay in the field of skulls. He slashes at Takakazi's mask, which questions if he wants to hold Hina in hands that murdered her father. Licht agrees and gives up, overwhelmed by the weight of his actions. But then, he hears Hina calling to him. Doan tells him he's not coming back, but Hina insists that Licht will make it because he never gives up, and she won't either. Jail and Sonohara agree, believing Licht will return. Doan prepares to strike them, but Hina's voice becomes clearer, and Licht stands up, remembering his promise. She keeps calling for him, and he declares that he promised her he'd return and win the battle. His sword begins to glow as he tells the masks he's going back to the people who matter to him. They warn him he'll be in pain if he returns, but he says he has people to share that pain with and to share his emotions with. He slices through all the masks and pierces the heap of skulls. Doan's orb in his hand begins to glow and expand, and Licht breaks out, telling Doan he promised Classe and has not yet fulfilled that promise. Doan is furious and tries to attack him, but Licht blocks it, inviting Doan to join him as he punches him into a wall, defeating him. The others join him, happy that he has returned. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.